Once upon a time there was a boy who always wanted something. Sometimes he dreamed of a little horse to ride on. Sometimes he dreamed of a sled, sometimes of a boat, and at the very least a folding knife. But since the boy's father had died, and his mother was a poor day laborer, his wishes were never fulfilled. One day, when he wanted something once again, an old wise man gave him some good advice. The old man suggested that the boy go into the forest and sprinkle salt on the magpie's tail. Then all his wishes would come true. However, the boy had to make his wish before the salt fell off the magpie's tail. Then all his wishes would come true. The boy had to quickly and carefully make his wish very gently and slowly before the salt completely fell off the magpie's tail. From that day on, the boy always carried salt in his pants pocket. He wandered through the forest from early morning until late evening, encountering many magpies. But none of them even came close to him. But one morning, the boy came across a magpie that wasn't so skittish. The bird landed nearby so the boy could easily catch it. But as soon as he approached the magpie with a pinch of salt, it suddenly flew up. It landed on a branch of the nearest tree and started mocking him. The pesky magpie teased him all day long, and when evening came, the boy, exhausted, threw himself on the ground and closed his eyes so he wouldn't have to see that wicked bird. He heard the magpie hopping on the branches, and then someone called out to him, "Ulia, Ulia." The boy lifted his head and, to his surprise, realized that the magpie had called him by name. "Can you talk?" The boy was amazed. "Yes. You see, I am a cursed princess," the magpie replied, "and you will be able to get everything you wish for if you please me. Get me a sharp folding knife so I can clean my beak and claws, and efficiently, precisely, and meticulously, and then I will allow you to sprinkle salt on my tail." The boy thought for a moment and decided that it was a wonderful deal. The next morning he went to the forest. He spent the whole day picking berries, which he then sold at the lord's estate. Every day he went to the forest for berries, until finally he saved enough money to buy a beautiful folding knife. Ulia rushed into the thicket, and he began to call the magpie to give her the gift. The magpie quickly hopped over and started examining the knife with one eye and then the other. "Phew," she finally said. "This knife isn't very nice for a princess, like. If only it had a golden handle." Ulia was upset, and tears welled up in his eyes. "I'll try to get you another knife, a gilded one," offered. "No, thank you. I'm no longer interested in the knife," the magpie cut in. "Better get me a nice sled so I can go sledding in the winter." "There's nothing you can do. Ulia had to earn money for the sled." He started making wooden spoons, and with his new knife he carved them so skillfully that it was a pleasure to behold. Then he sold the spoons in the city. It's a sight to behold. Then he sold spoons in the city. Ulia worked so incredibly hard and tirelessly, with unwavering commitment and determination, that he didn't even have time to carve himself even a very tiny and little boat. After 6 months, the boy was able to buy a beautiful sled with great iron runners. He went into the forest and called the magpie. "Here are your sleds," he shouted happily, thinking that now the magpie would be satisfied. The bird immediately flew down from the tree and started pecking at the iron runners and the seat. And you think these sleds are good enough for such an important person as I am? She asked, and then settled back on the branch. No, they need to be decorated with silk and silver. Ulya began to cry out of despair. All right, I'll go and earn you some other sleds, he said. No way, thanks, the magpie replied grumpily. Now I want to have a cart with handsome horses. Poor Uli went home with a heavy heart. But he decided not to lose heart. If he needs to get a cart and horses, he will get them, no matter what it costs him. The boy climbed up the hill where people were sledding and started charging people to take a ride on the sled. People were generous, and a line formed for Uli. His sleds were so nice. Now he had absolutely no free time. He either stood with the sled on the hill or carved various intricate things out of wood to sell. The boy himself didn't get to ride the new sleds even once all winter. Finally, Uli saved up enough money and was able to buy a little horse. He taught her various tricks and started performing for money. After a while, the boy was able to buy a second horse, which he also trained and started putting on full performances. Eventually, Uli got a small elegant cart, the spokes of which were made of silver. The boy went into the forest to the magpie. The cheerful magpie was sitting on a branch, as always. Oh, what is that? She was delighted to see the sparkling silver. The bird looked closely at the cart and the horses and shook its head. I don't like open carriages, she sighed. I want to ride in a closed carriage and let the horses be white instead of bay. All right. And let the horses not be bay, but perhaps white. All right, Uli replied sadly. It's tough to deal with a lady with such high demands like this magpie. Uli replied sadly. Yeah, it's tough to deal with a lady with such high demands like this magpie. But there's nothing you can do. After all, she is a princess. I can see that you don't understand anything, neither in horses nor in carriages, the magpie declared after thinking. Let's forget about them. Build me a castle instead. It should stand by the sea. It should have no less than 100 rooms, and around the castle you should create a park and a garden. If you fulfill my request, I will help you. With a heavy sigh, Uli headed home. He started driving people around the city in his carriage, and everyone wanted to hire his cart because it was really nice, although the magpie didn't like it. After a while, Uli bought another cart with horses and hired a coachman. Having earned enough money from driving, Uli was able to build the castle. A beautiful castle made of white marble, with flags flying from its towers. Ulya went back into the forest to the magpie, and the bird happily set off to see the castle. She hopped around all the rooms and storerooms, and after finishing her inspection, she settled on the table in the main hall. Not bad. Not bad at all, she chirped. But there's something missing in the castle. Get me 3 chests of gold. Without them, I won't be able to fulfill your request. How can you not be ashamed? Ulya shouted. During his time communicating with the magpie, he grew up, and an adult is not afraid to tell the bird what he thinks. Well then, I won't let you sprinkle salt on my tail. The magpie cackled and flew out the window. That was all they saw. Can I not get 3 chests of gold? Ulya thought. Ulya thought. One thing's for sure, learned how to earn money. Ulya worked hard for a whole 5 years. And finally, in the main hall of the castle, 3 huge chests filled with gold coins appeared. The magpie flew into the castle and sat on the edge of the central chest, examining the gold. Well, now you can pour some salt on my tail, she decided, and the long-awaited moment has finally arrived. Happy, Ulya reached into his pants pocket and pulled out a pinch of salt. The magpie sat still as he sprinkled salt on her tail. So what do you wish for? The bird asked. Ulya pondered. What does he want? He worked so hard. To fulfill his cherished wish of sprinkling salt on the magpie's tail, he forgot about everything else in the world. 1, 2. The bird urged him. Wait a little, wait, let me think. But Ulya just couldn't remember what it was that he once wanted. 3! Magpie shouted and flew up, shaking the salt off her tail. The bird settled on the windowsill and burst out laughing. And then Ulya got angry. Don't you dare tease me, he shouted, because now I know what I want. I want to buy a gun and shoot you. Because now I know what I want. I want to buy a gun and shoot you. That's not very nice of you, dear Ulya, the magpie declared. You want to shoot me, the one who has fulfilled all your wishes, who has kept promises so well that you can't even think of what to wish for anymore? After all, now you have a knife, sleds, horses with carts, a castle, and chest full of gold. Who has kept promises so well that you can't even think of what to wish for anymore? After all, now you have a knife, sleds, horses with carts, a castle, and chests full of gold. Ulya stopped with his mouth open and his eyes wide. And it's true, he has everything he wanted. All that was left was to sit back and enjoy life. Wow! He exclaimed, throwing up his hands in amazement. And I was so eager to sprinkle salt on your tail, even though it wasn't necessary at all. Exactly, the magpie replied. She laughed even louder, flapped her wings, and was gone. And Ulya was thinking about what had happened. He settled in the castle, and he lived there happily ever after.